Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Zeldudes podcast. That's right, 2 episodes in 2 weeks. We've not left yet.
This is weird, right? We're supposed to have like a 6-7 month, break. I'm sorry, I did that again. Okay,
You're just sneaking that in again,
right?
Yeah.
Someone said that now that dads are making those jokes, it's probably a dead meme anyway. So I mean, it makes sense. I hopped on it when it was too late.
That's what we want to do. We want to just kill that dead.
Yep. But speaking of which, yeah, like we mentioned last time, we're, new dads. And I feel like, we kind of just brought that up and kind of brushed it aside because we had so much Zelda news to talk about. And we'll still talk about more Zelda news in this podcast. We thought it'd be fun to kind of talk about, the fact that we had kids and the crazy coincidence. So I guess I'll start off since my kid was born first. So, I'm older. I get to go. Okay, whatever.
That's you can tell me what I'm doing wrong or whatever. You're like me, but 3 months in the future.
Yeah. But, so my kid was actually born on June 23rd. And for those longtime Zeldudes viewers, you would know that I've mentioned after The Legend of Zelda, or technically before my absolute obsession with Zelda, it was Sonic. Sonic was my absolute obsession. And believe it or not, my kid was actually born on Sonic's birthday, which, I don't know, is just an insane coincidence. Like, to me, that's crazy. But not only that, I mean, your kid is an even crazier coincidence when you think of the whole situation. So you go ahead.
Yeah, well, like you've got Sonic's birthday, whereas my daughter was born on September 26th, which is the release date of Echoes of Wisdom. Is exactly 1 year after the first Zelda game where you play as Princess Zelda. My daughter was born, which is crazy. And although, she's still a little bit too small to hold a controller now. She's only just grabbing at like little dangly things from a mobile. But as soon as she is, I think, I've got to start her off on Echoes of Wisdom. That's kind of like her game now in multiple ways, which do you think you'll start your kid off with Sonic?
Right.
Or like, what Sonic game or
that's tough.
What would you do?
I feel like his birthdays at least
it is
will
a big
have
decision.
Some Sonic incorporation, like chili dogs. I feel like knowing him,
right.
I mean, my son, of course, he's probably gonna love Sonic. He's gonna have that mindset that his dad has. Hopefully it transitions to Zelda and becomes exclusively Zelda when he's older, but at least when he's young, I do think...
you'll do the dad thing, and because you're trying to make him love Sonic and all his birthdays will be Sonic themed with a Sonic cake, it'll be like a Green Hill Zone cake, he'll hate it, and then you'll have to disown him.
Yeah, true. Well, no, I mean, it's cool if he doesn't like Sonic, but I just feel like he better because he shares the same birthday as him. You're gonna miss out on a lot of cool things. But in terms of so first game, I mean, crazy. Like your princess is on the same day Princess Zelda was actually playable. Do you feel like that now it has to be her first game, or how do you feel? Is it gonna be Ocarina of Time?
I think so, because it's something like it's something I've thought about for a while. Like even before becoming a dad, it's like hypothetically when I have a kid, how will I introduce them to like not even just Zelda but like video games as a whole? Because obviously I'm so obsessed with Zelda and like video games just like now, and now I'm an old man that's a dad, but a lot of that is rooted in childhood and the memories I have playing N64 and like GameCube when being a kid. So it's like I think the first few games that they play will completely form their opinions on everything. I don't know. I think as much as I want to say she can play what I played as a kid, Ocarina of Time, whatever, I think Echoes of Wisdom makes sense, right? It's like not only like her connection to it, but it's just, I think, quite a kid-friendly game where it's like it looks appealing to especially like a daughter, I think. And not only obviously you play as Zelda, that notwithstanding, but also like the way the combat works and everything, it's a little bit more laid back as opposed to like throwing her into A Link to the Past or like Adventure of Link or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know, how do you feel?
I agree. I mean, like you said, it's going to shape who they are. So maybe I'm not going to have Sonic be his first game. I will have Zelda as well. Don't worry. I mean, Zelda was my first game anyway. I came around, like, like, again, when I think of a video game, I think of Ocarina of Time. It is the definition of video games to me. And I think that's why that biasness is going to make me want my kid to play it first as well. I think, like you said before in a previous Zeldudes episode on Ocarina of Time, if if I give him like Breath of the Wild or something greater than that, he'll never be able to appreciate the old ones. But you make a lot of sense with maybe top down being a better way. So instead of giving that 3D camera angle and all the freedom, you're first restricted, and it makes them appreciate when they do go 3D and they do have all this freedom. So like, well, Link to the Past isn't a bad idea, but I mean, my problem with Echoes of Wisdom is it's too intricate. It could be amazing for a kid, but it could also be super difficult for a kid. You know what I mean? Because their imagination truly is how they're going to solve things. Do they want to constantly stack beds and try to climb things? And I guess...
But that's the thing. That'll work in Echoes of Wisdom. Like, she might just think beds are funny or something, and that will work for like half the problems in that game.
Yeah, I guess looking at it that way... I mean, Echoes of Wisdom might be a contender for me as well, because that isn't a bad idea. And it is, again... in my eyes, the most underrated Zelda game now, even though it's still just like 2 years old, or not even, just a year and a half old, right? Barely.
Yeah, when was it?
September.
Oh,
you
a year ago. You
can't forget.
I've already forgotten. Right, but I do feel it doesn't get talked about as much as I thought it would. It's kind of been forgotten very quickly. At least in terms of like online discourse about it, which is crazy. Because I think it's so good.
A lot of I think we kind of mentioned that last time. I've noticed a couple people say that it's because the game itself isn't a real Zelda game, or it's missing the traditional puzzles or something like that. And well, you're not wrong. I mean, do we want every Zelda game to be the exact same? I think I was also talking about this in the last pod as well. Like, I'm kind of done with the whole Master Sword and then, things open up.
Yeah.
And, like, I would love to see Nintendo just kind of do something else. Don't get me wrong. Once every 10 years, we need that formula just to keep things going. But we need some things to spice it up in between. And Echoes of Wisdom was a great example of just something different, unique, but still familiar,
Yeah, but like, I don't even know if I agree if it's not. No, I think it's more of a Zelda game than like Breath of the Wild. Obviously, Breath of the Wild has Hyrule and the Master Sword and all that, and you play as Link, which is probably the biggest thing that people dislike, or maybe dislike's not the right word, but that stops people, like, I guess, from associating Echoes of Wisdom with the Zelda series as a whole. But outside of that, I think it's way more of a traditional formulaic Zelda game than Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, in the way, the dungeon structure and I suppose item progression's not quite the same, because your items are scattered around the world in the form of enemies and echoes and things, and like I don't know, I think it's I've said it before, but I think it's like the perfect middle ground between new and old Zelda.
I guess
I don't know. Yeah,
why people dissociated it was because it had that, which is funny because I agree. I guess Breath of the Wild is, if anything, less like a traditional Zelda game than Echoes of Wisdom. But I think the reason why people make those comparisons and dissociate with the original series is the multitude of ways to solve things. I don't know why, but I guess I'm slowly learning that a lot of the Zelda fan base don't really like that, but I thought that was one of the coolest changes I think Nintendo has done. Imagine making an intricate puzzle that has many ways to solve things. But again, I'm thinking of like Austin John, who literally said he didn't like that either, right? Like, there's a decent amount of people who want one way.
Like puzzles with one solution. I think we disagree on this as well.
Yeah.
I think I prefer, like a kind of stricter puzzle system. Because I like, as much as, like Breath of the Wild, you do feel like a genius when you throw some random solution at a puzzle and it works. Like, the first few times you do that, it's amazing, until you start figuring out that same solution works for another puzzle and then another puzzle. And an example would be like in Tears of the Kingdom, you can like use Ultra Hand to lift something and then recall to rewind that motion, and you can kind of loop that to get like crazy movement, even through shrines. You can kind of, if any of the shrines, like the one I'm thinking of in particular is I can't remember the name of it. I'm not skitty bitty. I haven't got them all memorized, but it's it's the one where it's like the rails and you have to build something to hang on the rails and get across the whole shrine. It's quite an infamous one. I remember a lot of people have problems with it.
The toughest one if you don't understand.
You can skip that with recall and Ultra Hand, which I think obviously the thing people say is just, well, don't do that then if you don't want to play at that game, which that's like a valid thing to say, but also I don't think the player should have to like limit themselves on what they do to like have a full game. You know, like if Ocarina of Time, if there were, this is probably a silly comparison, but if you had like a mega ultra sword that one hit all the enemies, and you could say, well, don't use that then if you want like a, you know, a tougher game, which that's probably a bad comparison, but it's a similar kind of line of argument, if you know what I mean.
I mean, you got the Bagoran sword, so technically it already exists, so okay.
That's true. Yeah. But that's got like, I don't know, style points, I guess. Yeah. But but I think with like what you want your kid to play in particular, I know we've discussed this before, like you said, I think Breath of the Wild, although it might make them less inclined to go back to like Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask or something like that, I think that's like a child's dream game, right? Like when I was playing Ocarina of Time when I was like 3 or 4, I've said it before, I didn't get past Dodongo's Cavern because it scared me too much, so I didn't progress through the game at all. But I just kind of ran around and like, you know, just ran around Hyrule Field and, you know, went to Lake Hylia or whatever. It's like you just messed around. Like that's how I enjoyed it as a kid. And I think Breath of the Wild is that turned up to 11 because that's the whole point. Like there's no, the progression is kind of what you want it to be.
Yep. And yeah, you're right. For a kid where their imagination is endless and they're not the smartest, obviously, they're learning, so giving it one definitive way to solve something would, it would be a roadblock all the time. And if they don't literally figure it out, but I guess to me, that's what makes the series so special, because like you can make a puzzle that's still difficult, but has like 10 ways to solve it. That is some insane game design. And while you're right, because of that, there's puzzles that can be absolutely broken and cheesed to no end. I feel like if Nintendo can find a balance, and I feel like in general, the future will continue to prove that maybe this method could work and just be better and more refined, because this is like what their third game now in the entire franchise, 40 years making these kind of puzzles to begin with. So yeah, only time will tell. If they keep doing this, I think will be way better down the line. I
think I'd agree that like something that you could, like a puzzle that has multiple solutions, that's amazing. And if they could like figure that out, so most puzzles have multiple ways to solve them, but not, basically I don't like the idea of like skeleton keys, like something that could solve infinite puzzles because it's so busted. And obviously it's really difficult when designing a game like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, because they give the player such powerful tools that it doesn't take long, especially with the internet being this kind of like hive mind that crowdsources solutions. It's not difficult for those tools to create a solution that's perhaps more powerful than maybe the developers thought of. Like one really obvious example is I really don't know if during like when they were designing Ultra Hand in Tears of the Kingdom, if they really thought that the hover bike would be possible, because it's so simple. It's like 2 fans and a steering stick. I think they probably wanted players to use, you know, like a metal grate with 4 fans on it, you know, a little bit more of a vehicle rather than, because the hover bike, it does feel cheesy, the way it's just so much more efficient than everything else. Yep. And that's something that like, I can imagine back when we were playing Ocarina of Time, you know, in like the 90s or early 2000s or whatever, say there was some ultra powerful solution to a puzzle, you probably wouldn't solve it, and like unless someone at your school knew how to solve it or whatever, it just wouldn't get done. But now, because of the internet, as soon as there is this really broken method, everyone knows about it instantly, which is like, I suppose it's just different about games coming out now.
That's just a reality of modern times. Nothing will be a secret, or rumors aren't rumors anymore. People data mine the game and they confirm exactly what's in it, so there's no speculation, which does suck. All that fun is taken out, and this is where I guess both of us being dads and, you know, a bit older, because like, back in my day, playing games were better.
We can actually use that now.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I agree. There's good and bad in both, but like, I guess Zelda moving forward, I would want him to continue this new route. I find myself really enjoying it. I think a good example would be Metroid Prime 4. Now, I know you haven't played that. I have.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm interested.
And I feel like, it's Zelda-esque. We can bring it up. Here's the thing. It pretty much was my game of the year outside of Tears of the Kingdom being re-released. I enjoyed it because I was waiting 20 years for it. So there's that. Coming from like a actual Metroid Prime fan, played all the games, enjoyed them. But holy crap, the concept of Metroidvania was really honed into that game. They wanted you to backtrack, pick this item, go back here, pick up another item. Now you can go back to this dungeon and solve half of the dungeon, but now you have to leave the dungeon and pick up a different item. So
it's like Skyward Sword.
Yeah, it's really... And that's what made me realize, okay, this game was not meant for this time. It was meant to come out 20 years ago. This stuff has aged. I feel like gamers in general are not patient enough for this kind of gameplay. It does exist. A good example would be like Hollow Knight Silksong. That came out and was nominated for Game of the Year and has very much Metroidvania as concepts where you're backtracking and going back and forth and everything. But like, in terms of like, you know, if there's other ways to enjoy the game, other ways to solve it, ways to not make it as repetitive, I think modern gamers would enjoy that a lot more. I think Nintendo, honestly, they just knew that, and that's proof why Breath of the Wild is what it is, and it surpassed and eclipsed every single Zelda game combined because of that, because it was able, like, there were so many people. I remember literally watching someone who's a little bit older than me who was literally saying, like, he never played a Zelda game. Then he played Breath of the Wild, and he while he was overwhelmed, he felt like he never had to stop playing. Because every Zelda game he would play, he would reach a point where there'd be a brick wall, and he'd just give up. I don't know how to solve this. I'm confused. And Breath of the Wild just constantly play, do whatever you want. You can solve anything at any time. You don't have to follow a walkthrough per se. Or
if you can't solve something, you just turn and go a different direction.
And have a million other things to do, right? And I really do think that's the beauty and the future of not just Zelda as a whole, but gaming altogether. So it's weird because, you think I'm the boomer and I'm stuck in the past, but like, the Metroid Prime 4 made me realize that maybe just games are changing, and while again games like Hollow Knight Silksong should still exist and it's great, that's if Nintendo's trying to aim for everybody and really get out there, I think kind of not limiting the player as much would be the best route. And I enjoy it, at least. I feel weird because even though I played and I love all the Zelda games and I'm more boomer than you when it comes to being nostalgic for this stuff, I'm excited for the future of Zelda, and I don't want them to go back to the old Zelda at all, really. I just want a better story. That's it, you know?
Yeah, that's a big one, yeah. I think I'm maybe like 60% where you're at. Like, I love Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but again, not to like repeat myself, but I think Echoes of Wisdom, the way it maybe not in the puzzle solving, because that was still very kind of freeform, but like in the general structure of the game, I think, represented a good middle ground. And I think the same would work for like puzzles, and like you mentioned, like Hollow Knight, the way the way the world is designed is, you'll kind of go to one corner and it'll be what looks like a dead end, but you'll notice something. Like I haven't played Silksong, but I played the first Hollow Knight recently, and like, you go somewhere and it's like an empty cave, but the ground kind of shakes slightly when you walk on it, and you're like, it's a bit weird. Then later you learn like a ground smash move that lets you break through that. So you think, I'll go back to that place, which is really satisfying. But then, there was multiple times during Hollow Knight where I was, playing through, and I was like, what do I do? Like, I feel a bit overwhelmed by the sheer, like, the size of this world and the amount of things where if I'd forgotten that I'd seen, that thing had happened in the cave, unless I stumbled back on it later on, it would have been really difficult to make that progression jump. Whereas that sort of like problem never ever exists in a game like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
Exactly.
Which I do think is definitely an advantage, especially like we're saying, for like a kid. It's just an ultimate sandbox. Like you just sit down, you play that, and you're never going to get bored because you're never going to get stuck. But then, I don't know, maybe this is like a super boomer opinion, and like, I'm not a game designer, so it's probably not great game design, but like, I think, I don't know, getting stuck is something good as well. Like some of my favorite memories playing games were like, my dad would be out at work and I'd be playing, I got like one really clear memory for some reason of 007 Nightfire, which was like, it was an awesome game, like on the GameCube. It was like not based on a Bond film, but like this whole other thing. I was stuck on one of them. It was there's like a mission where all these ninjas attack someone's house, and it was awesome. And I remember got stuck on it. So I emailed my dad at work, and he was like, "Yeah, no, I'll help you when I come back home." And for some reason, that's just stuck as this like awesome little. I don't know. It's kind of like an extra like layer to the relationship like I had when I was playing games with my dad. Was like when he wasn't there, I had to try and figure stuff out for myself. And then, if I couldn't, it was like, oh, dad will come home and help me with this. And I get that that's not like, maybe you shouldn't design games in that way because not everyone would have like someone to come and help them sort of solve a puzzle. But that's something that I'm looking forward to. I don't know. Playing games with my kid is like, I'll see her try and work things out, and I don't know. I won't like helicopter above her and like, I don't know, micromanage her playing, but like I think it'd be quite nice for her to like get stuck and I could talk her through the puzzles and things like that. Whereas if it's just completely open, it's like as soon as she gets stuck somewhere she goes another direction. While that's probably more satisfying for her perspective, I don't know if something's lost by not getting stuck anymore. I don't know if I'm making sense.
I completely get it, and I completely understand where you're coming from. If anything, I feel like it's already a controversy currently in the gaming space, and what I mean by that is so a good example would be, again, Hollow Knight. That the reason why I feel like it was nominated, the reason why I feel like it was appreciated, is because it does harken back to that kind of old school style of gaming where you're gonna get stuck, you get good. It's to get good. It's the reason why Elden Ring is Elden Ring and why it blew up as well. But yeah, there's also the whole dilemma of video game companies not wanting the player to feel that way, so they do stuff like the yellow staircase or the yellow ladder, or they really want to tell you what to do. They don't want to give any. So it's like there's extreme on both ends. That's the problem. And I feel like, Nintendo is trying to find kind of the middle ground, because again, it doesn't seem as extreme as either. But yeah, I totally get it. Sometimes you want a game that just really challenges you and that you want to overcome, and you get that dopamine and everything. But there's some people, and I guess I get the difference between us being a bit more old school gamers and growing up without a guide, because I've heard a lot of people who are like, I don't have much time in my day. I just want to play the game. I don't want to do this.
Which is fair enough, but because I think especially a big part of it is like a symptom of how now there's like unlimited games, like any genre, any like setting, anything, there's like a game for it. Whereas back in the day, like, pre Ocarina of Time, go back to like, I said Adventure of Link earlier sort of thing, they made games deliberately obtuse and deliberately difficult. Because, they liked to encourage going and talking to your friends about the game, and kind of like, I said how the internet kind of crowdsources solutions, which in some ways is a positive, some ways is a negative. But back then it was like, it was only the people you knew in real life, or those Nintendo helplines you could call up who you'd get solutions from. Whereas like now they don't need to do that, because there's so many, it would probably be a bad move to make your game completely really difficult to play through, because players will just go, well, I'll play a different game then. I don't know, because everyone's got so much choice now, whereas back then they didn't as much. But I don't know whether, like, again, like when you're a kid, you don't have, the money to go and buy a new game or whatever. You kind of have the games. I
feel like we can't compare ourselves to the kids today. I just feel like that generation is long gone, because iPad, dude, the amount of mobile games that are free, bro. No, it's like there is no limit now. I just feel like, and that's sadly just the future of how we have to deal with things, because everyone's impatient now. No one's gonna be like, because you're right. Back then they would make a game really hard because if you bought it, this game's gonna keep you busy, and you're gonna feel like, oh, it was worth the price. I played this game forever, even if I was repeating the same thing again and again. This game kept me busy. No one's gonna sit through that kind of stuff anymore. They're gonna be like, on to the next thing, and that's why sadly game companies have to cater for that. I feel like that's why we're losing that essence. And when there are the few games that do kind of shine through, sometimes they're really appreciated. I mean, sometimes they're not, though. I'm sure there's a lot of tough games that aren't even acknowledged because they just never got the proper spotlight. But yeah, I mean, I just think, again, that's proof that we're just getting older. And like times truly are changing. It's true.
But like in some ways, it's like a child is like a blank slate, in that our brains have been rotted by social media algorithms and playing anything you want you can get sort of thing, whereas a kid hasn't had that yet. So like when we played games as a kid, we'd sit down open, like, you know, turn on the Nintendo 64, and like that was it. It was like you play the Nintendo 64, or you, I don't know, you do something else that's less exciting than a Nintendo 64. So as if like, maybe it sounds, I don't know, naive, because my kid's only 3 months old, so I haven't got into like the proper, you know, like parenting stage yet. But like, if she doesn't have the option of like some like random mobile games or whatever, and the games she has are the kind of the games that we grew up on, or games in a similar way, that it's like a console on a television rather than a screen like an iPad sort of thing, I don't know whether it would, surely she'd react to it in a similar way to we did, whereas we appreciated it because it was the only option at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's actually what I plan on doing as well with my kid. Like,
yeah.
I'm gonna give him a Game Boy. He's gonna use literally a modded Game Boy with a backlight, so he'll have a better experience than we did with the, you know, the calculated screen and having to be under a well-lit environment. So I'll give him that, but that's it. And I was thinking of the same thing, because I'm like, okay, if I give him an iPad, that's brain rot. Even if I give him a Switch, with my downloaded games, that's brain rot. There's too. I already am suffering. I'll be honest. I'll open a game and I find it really hard to commit to any game. Really, I like constantly want to. Like, if it's not Zelda, I'm probably gonna play it for like a few minutes and maybe want to jump to something else or something like that. And yeah, so it's like, even as an adult, I have that issue. I can't imagine a kid with, you know, insane impulse.
Right.
And
like,
yeah,
these are our brains, like late 20s, early 30s, sort of like properly formed brains, let alone little brains that haven't, you know, adapted to anything yet. If you kind of feed them like the crazy, like, I don't know what the word is, but like anything you want on tapness of the internet and of modern gaming, they're not going to be able to appreciate the kind of the slower pace of like the games that we had as kids. And again, I know it probably sounds like anyone who's got a kid older than we do probably thinks we're sounding really naive here, because we're like, we haven't had to actually deal with this.
When they're 3, you're going to be giving them the iPad. You're not gonna care about that.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, exactly. So, you know, maybe we do sound naive, but like, I don't know. I think another factor that I think about this is like, whereas when I played games, you know, you're the same as me. You have like loads of brothers. It was a social thing. You sit down and there was like the Nintendo 64 or later the GameCube or the Wii or whatever, and it was on the television and everyone was sat on the sofa looking at the same screen. And, you know, it's like, even if it was a one-player game, even if I was, you know, playing the Wind Waker or Twilight Princess and my brothers weren't, they'd still be kind of talking to me about the game, or like, there's no way you beat that Dark Knight. I don't know. It was like a kind of a social thing, whereas like, if it's mobile games or whatever, it's so much more individual and like closed off than
because you're not sharing the one giant screen that everyone gets to see. And it really does, you know, cause a kind of isolation in a sense. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's why both of us, at least at the moment, we're confidently saying our kids aren't going to be using mobiles, games or anything. Right. Try to limit to
early
Game
days,
Boy. like maybe DS Max. Like, if internet, it's like the DS internet, nothing else.
yeah. Picto chat, and that's it.
Right. I mean, I hope Nintendo. I'll be honest. I really hope Nintendo kind of brings back like those handheld consoles. I get the Switch technically is handheld, but I really do miss, like, you know, the old school era, the DS, the true, like, kids are gonna be missing out because
That's the thing. It's like, I always think the Switch, especially the Switch 2, is like, it's so big, whereas. You know, back, like, especially the console I loved more than anything was Game Boy Advance SP, or like DS Lite, like that one. You can fit that in your pocket and it's fine. Whereas like a Switch 2 does not fit in your pocket, or if it does, it looks really, really strange because it's so big. Whereas like, I know there's like the Switch Lite or whatever.
There's gonna be those kids
like,
at school. Dude, there were kids who would literally carry their like PlayStation 1 in their pocket. I mean, I was weird. I used to carry my cartridge of Ocarina of Time with me, or whatever N64 game was my go-to. And same with my older brother. His Majora's Mask was always in his locker. And one day a kid knew that and literally stole it. So it's like, you know, maybe don't bring.
I didn't know that.
Why are you bringing your Majora's Mask card? What are you gonna do with it? It's useless without an N64. But as a kid, you're just so obsessed with your little gadget. And I guess that's something a kid is gonna be missing if they only rely on phones. Nintendo, if anything, needs to do this just to save the youth. Save the youth from the brain rot. Give us the 4DS. We need the 4DS, Nintendo.
Yeah. Or like, I mean, everyone thought they were going to do it with the Switch 2, but like, bring back something like Miiverse.
Right?
Especially now, there's this massive emphasis.
There are a
on
lot of kids
game
on
chat,
it,
and it's got its own button like game chat, but I don't know. Have you used game chat since like day one?
It doesn't. I literally, my button has rusted, dude. It's literally rusted and busted. It doesn't work. I'm kidding.
Well, it's like back, like back on the Wii U or whatever. Like, it was cool. Like Miiverse and like, I don't know why it's just popped into my head, but do you remember that guy? He just post different games on Miiverse, commenting about the water. You're like, water looks real nice in this game. Really like the water in this game.
I'm thinking of like my parents gone divorce. It's just like they're actual little kids, but it's like that was something.
And you see that, you go like, yeah.
Right. But that was like an example of like that was probably the best equivalent of social media for a kid. You can only post about games and little drawings and nothing else. It's very innocent. Nintendo would take down anything that seems too much, explicit, whatever it may be. I would love for that to return, truly, but
I agree, because I think it's like I don't know, it's because like we grew up with like kind of alongside social media. Like I remember part of the big reason that I loved playing games like RuneScape or World of Warcraft back in the day was because like social media wasn't as big of a thing. So you'd see your friend at school and you'd be like, oh, I'll see you on RuneScape later then. And that would be like how you socialize with them outside of school. And also there was like a novelty of talking to someone on the internet. Whereas now, like any one of my friends I could just message now, but like I don't, because they're so easily reachable. It's kind of like the allure of it is lost. But like, we've kind of grown up with social media, so it's like really hard to think about how, like, what a kid would think about it now. You know what I mean? Like they're growing up in a world where social media is like, it's like everywhere. It's the thing. Whereas for us, I remember it was like, like Facebook's coming out. It's like Facebook's starting to get popular. It's like a novelty thing. Whereas now it's just like, well, yeah, it's social media. Everyone knows about it. So I think like something like Miiverse, just like something that kids can kind of, dip their toes into that world without, throwing them on Twitter or something like that, where it's just like going to just completely destroy their brain, because like kids are so vulnerable and the internet is so scary and whatever. And I don't know. I think it's crazy. Like, I don't know how you feel about that. Like, about social media and
I'm the
children
same.
And
100%. I'm the same way. I mean, I'll be honest. I think both of us, we wouldn't even have social media if we didn't do content. Like, we both are barely on it, where we never post anything. It's just not my thing. It's just, I don't care for it, and I wouldn't want my kid to care for it, because you're pretty much just seeking validation from nameless people. So yeah, I 100% get like the brain rot behind it, and it's proof that something like Miiverse would actually be kind of nice in today's day and age. Yeah.
It's just like a kind of a nice social media where like, you don't see all this horrendous stuff. It's just focused on Nintendo games.
Right.
Which, like, I don't know. I miss that being a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. But outside of the whole future or kids, I mean, the grim future of gaming as well. No, I'm kidding. Let's talk about something pretty grim as well. Freaking the grim fiends, the arch fiends, what are they called?
Oh, yeah. What are they called? Arch fiends, yeah.
Arch fiends.
Grim Goma.
They had Grim in their name. I thought that would be a good transition.
I see what you did.
I do want to talk a little bit more about Age of Imprisonment, because we kind of briefly mentioned that as well in last week's pod, but I feel like one crucial thing I forgot about, because I was just kind of broadly talking about it, is something that, I mean, maybe still remedied through DLC. I mean, we still have some DLC coming out, right? Is that confirmed? Would you know, or?
I've kind of lost track, to be fair, of DLC. Yeah.
You haven't even touched it.
I know you've played, like...
You haven't, you haven't...
As soon as I finised the game,
I
was like,
you got the story.
I didn't play the...
Yeah, you're not playing it for the gameplay.
I didn't play the recent DLC, but... I mean, you've played through... At least the DLC that's currently out, right?
Yeah. They just had like harder levels. They had a harder difficulty. It's just, if you don't care for the gameplay, you're not going to even care slightly for the DLC. And that to me is just kind of a letdown, because again, it's cool that it's free DLC, but like one thing that, and I understand you also mentioned that they didn't want to completely elaborate on the imprisoning war. They wanted to still leave some things up for interpretation, but like what we were meant to get was more info on the ancient sages and on the main villain. This Ganondorf is a new Ganondorf, and the fact that Breath of the Wild / mainly we'll just say Tears of the Kingdom established a new origin story for him, where once again he is the king of Gerudo, so he has to go through the Gerudos. The Gerudo is going to have a civil war, and they're going to have to, either choose Ganondorf or Hyrule. All of this intricate stuff that should have been slightly further explained in Age of Imprisonment wasn't whatsoever. And when I think back to it, it's just like, that to me was the biggest letdown with the game. I was super upset because Ganondorf was literally playable in the other 2 Hyrule Warriors games. And even in the original Definitive Edition, he literally had his own story arc. You literally played as a villain. You slayed Link, for a level. Even though you went back to play as Link and beat him once again and put him in his place, you act like it. They let you play as the villain, and that's something they do in Dynasty Warriors to begin with. They let you play as every single army, even though you're up against, and you're playing, let's say, as the Wu, you're up against the Shu, it doesn't matter. Like, you're going to play as the opposite version, and you get to see everyone's perspective. So, yeah, it is weird how they never added that in Age of Imprisonment, and the biggest letdown, and I'm sure you can agree, was the Easter egg, right? We saw a really cool Easter egg. Sadly, it can only be considered an Easter egg, because they never even confirmed their names. That being Twinrova, right?
Yeah.
Because we see both Koma and Kote.
We knew that all the way back from... We knew it back in Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, like Ganondorf is always flanked by these 2 Gerudo, who they kind of have short hair that's shaved into the Gerudo symbol. One has a blue gem, one has a red gem on their foreheads. And
that confirms it.
Even more explicit, they both have kind of sashes on them that
and green skin,
exactly the same as the sashes on and green skin, like Ganondorf. Yeah. But they have sashes on them that are exactly the same as the sashes worn by Koume and Kotake in Ocarina of Time that translates to Koume and Kotake. So it's explicit that these are the 2 witches that become Twinrova, who in Ocarina of Time, they're really interesting because their lore is only hinted at and never explained. So we know that they're Ganondorf's surrogate mothers, and we know that they're 400 years old. Although one of them claims to be younger, but I can't remember which one.
By 20 years.
They're twins.
Yeah, right. 380.
But we don't really know anything else about them. And the idea of Ganondorf's childhood is so fascinating, because you don't think of Ganondorf as being a child, as being vulnerable and whatever. You just think of him spawning as this warlord, but obviously that's not the case. He must have been formed by these witches, kind of raising him, or perhaps grooming him for power. And although that doesn't seem to be the case in Tears of the Kingdom, because they seem much younger than the witches we see in Ocarina of Time, still it's a really fascinating element of the Gerudo.
Those are his
henchmen. Their relationship with Ganondorf
goes from his mom to his. Again, it has a weird story, but essentially they eventually become his henchmen, to servants. He reigns as king, and at least we get to see that. But then it's not even acknowledged. Again, not even by name. Technically, Twinrova is an Easter egg in Age of Imprisonment.
What are they called when you battle? It's Gerudo. It's not even Gerudo witches, is it? It's Gerudo.
No, it's
assassins or something like that.
Yeah, assassin sounds from maybe, but they're not given
something like that.
Actual names for some reason. Yeah,
which is the thing that I just can't get my head around is the main mechanic of Age of Imprisonment. The main selling point is this. It's 2 characters coming together and doing a unified attack. What is the main thing about Koume and Kotake?
Right.
What's the main thing that they're remembered for? Is doing their, what do they call it, double dynamite or whatever, where they become
the double dynamite attack. It's some DBZ level fusion,
Right. Which is Potara earrings, then they become. It just seemed like a no-brainer. It would not only kind of flesh out Ganondorf's history and his relationship with the Gerudo, which, although we saw little bits of with Ardi and that,
there was a civil war. It's just barely acknowledged though.
So we would have got much more of that if they'd fleshed out Twinrova, and it just would have fit so well if we got like a boss fight against characters that are built around this double attack thing. It did seem really, really strange, because I know you kind of mentioned them as part of your fantastic segue, but we got the Archfiends, who got like the grim versions of
just
Tears of the
specifically
Kingdom's enemies,
which aren't even related to Ganon. That
Yeah.
they're references to older Zelda enemies, but you don't think of Ganon's henchmen immediately when you think of Ogoma and what's it called, Kolgura. Like, that's Ganon's right hand, Kolgura. You all remember Kolgura, right?
yeah, right. But I don't know how you felt about them, but I thought they were so underwhelming.
They were so half-assed. Grimgura, whatever. The voices,
so
the
way
they
look,
like the beady eyes. They just looked nasty. It looked like it was it almost looked like their design was made in like a previous generation. You know what I mean? Like, something about them just seemed detailless or weird. Was not a fan. Even Grim Turok.
But it was like it was like Ganondorf, like his body merged with them. Although weirdly it looked like mummy Ganondorf, like dehydrated Ganondorf's body, like blended with the bosses from Tears of the Kingdom. But I don't know, I didn't really love them, and especially the voices, like you already mentioned. I didn't really. I don't know, they just came across as like a bit corny, especially it's a Grimgera.
Yeah, Grimgera's the worst, the first one. The worst.
There's like a kind of recurring joke almost, where throughout the game he's constantly referring to himself as the strongest of the Archfiends.
Oh, really?
Which, like, I don't know, like, okay, but I just felt it's very lazy. It's the same thing that Age of Calamity did, where it just took the 4 Blight Ganons and kind of buffed them up a bit.
Yeah, at least those were... Wait, never mind. I was thinking of, I liked what Age of Calamity did with a lot of enemies in terms of adding elemental stuff and trying to make them stronger, because they didn't have much to work with. I mean, straight up, Age of Imprisonment had the ability to add new characters. A good example would be the Shades. The Shades are like, technically, we didn't know exactly what they were meant to be, and them adding them, they could have went all out with that. I mean, again, with the Grim enemies as well, the Archfiends, there was a lot of room to make some creative stuff, but any idea, anything that was creative outside of, I guess, the main characters, I'll be honest, I really did enjoy. I really did enjoy the fact that you could play as, like, nobodies. that's a Dynasty Warriors thing.
Yeah, I
right?
love that. Yeah.
And that's why I felt weird not having Twin Robo. Because, like, 2 more Gerudo, throw them
exactly,
in.
because they fleshed out these cool, like, random characters I would never heard of, like, is it Typhon, the one with the big shield?
Typhon,
I thought he was cool.
He's so badass. Yeah. He looks like a DBZ character. He has the Vegeta butt, thing, and
the Widow's Peak thing. Yeah. And I really liked. Is that Quino? Purple hair?
Yep.
Whereas the wields
looks
the big,
like somehow a Sheikah, but definitely he's not.
I was literally about to say, I really thought that he was going to be introduced as like the origin or founder of the Sheikah in this world, because he's got purple hair, which is kind of very Sheikah coded. He wields a big. Yeah, he's got the
almost
the
like an
eye thing on his forehead, and he wields a double-handed sword, just like Impa does in. It's in the original Hyrule Warriors.
And the Edge of Duality as well. I'm thinking of the Edge of Duality. That was like the coolest Breath of the Wild weapon in that game.
Oh, that's true, actually. Yeah. So I don't know. I did think that, but it's strange that they had an opportunity to do, if they wanted Ganondorf to have 4 massive, powerful henchmen. Twin Rover's a shoo-in. That's just like it's very, very weird that they didn't do that. But then, like you said, they've clearly, got the imagination enough to add random characters to each of the races. Why not invent 3 other fresh henchmen for Ganon rather than kind of reuse the bosses and Tears of the Kingdom? I get that it's probably just to kind of as another connection, like these are the origins of the bosses we see in Tears of the Kingdom, but it's not really giving us the origins. It's just kind of kicking the can down the road in terms of explaining what they actually are. They're still the same thing.
And no one wants a connection. I'm monsters. Not like, why is Kolgura on the, Arch, ship or whatever? I don't care. It doesn't mean the Arc ship. I don't I never wanted an explanation for that. It would have been much cooler to get something like Astor, even though it wasn't canon. No one was questioning it. Because Astor...
Well, like, Astor was another example of them, like, being really, really great at like looking at the existing lore and fitting a character in. Because although, yeah, Age of Calamity did its own thing with its story after, you know, a certain point, we do know that in the backstory of Breath of the Wild, there was this fortune teller that, you know, made the prophecy of the return of Calamity Ganon, and then there's a lot of theories back in the day, mainly around the mysterious death of Zelda's mother, around the Queen of Hyrule, that, you know, maybe this strange fortune teller who appeared, because, you know, fortune tellers in Zelda are often kind of shady. There was the one in the lore that takes place before Adventure of Link. It was this magician that turns out to be Ganon in disguise. Or earlier than that, you've got A Link to the Past, you've got Aghanim, this kind of wizard character that appears as an advisor to the king, and whoa, it's Ganon.
Yep.
So I don't know, a lot of people thought that maybe this fortune teller was some sort of Ganon guy, and yeah, then Age of Calamity makes him this sort of doom prophet that kind of, you know, well, he's like Ganon's associate, his assistant in that game, which I just thought was fantastic.
Yep. Yeah, so sadly, I mean, so would you want, if like Nintendo just next Direct was like, and we're adding DLC for Age of Imprisonment, are you truly over it? It's just like,
no. Bury it. Let it die. Like, I don't know.
Move on.
I'm very, very happy for the people that love playing those games, because, you know, there's depth to the combat and whatever, but I've already said it's not my kind of game, and I've got what I want out of it, which is seeing more stuff about the story. And I think, say if they added Twin Rover in DLC, yeah, like, you know, it'd be cool, but I don't know, the DLC,
it's
even in the main series game, even in Breath of the Wild, it always feels like a little bit less cool and important as the main game itself. Like, I don't know, even though Breath of the Wild has like the best boss, arguably, I still think, I don't know, it kind of just feels
I really
peripheral.
love Breath of the Wild's DLC. If anything, I wish Tears of the Kingdom got that treatment. It was Master Mode, Master Trials, you know, the bike, the Master Cycle Zero, and I mean, my absolute favorite time in Breath of the Wild is the Great Plateau one-hit obliterator challenge. That's fun.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
cool.
Because they're like, okay, we know. You know what it reminds me of? It reminded me of like okay, so the best example would be like, and I'm not like, FromSoft deserves so much credit. They'll make a game like Elden Ring. In Elden Ring, you'll sit and, you know, slowly work your way through it, and it gets harder and harder, but you feel the progression, and you understand, you know, like, as you get better, you understand like how to deal with the enemies and everything. And you reach that final boss, and you're like, man, nothing can get harder than this. Then they add a DLC that every single thing somehow eclipses that and feels harder, but feels still challenging. I felt kind of that way with how they were tackling the Master Mode, Master Trials, and one-hit obliterator and stuff. And it's like, Tears of the Kingdom really needed that. They needed, like, okay, you mastered Tears of the Kingdom. Here's your true challenge. We want it, because Tears of the Kingdom is actually too easy for that. Like, that's why we got so many challenges. Like, I want to try the no paraglider one. If I play Tears of the Kingdom another time, I'm definitely going to do that, because I want the game to be more challenging. And like, sadly, we shouldn't be doing these weird Nuzlocke challenges to try and improve the game. Nintendo should have given us something.
Right? It should just be like, built in, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
So wait,
no, what I mean is, like, I agree that, like, from a gameplay, like, especially difficulty perspective, like, it is fantastic. Especially, I think the Trial of the Sword is awesome. It's this kind of like gauntlet challenge, which is pretty rare, like, in Zelda games. Obviously, you've got, you know, Cave of Ordeals and Savage Labyrinth, but you take your equipment into those, and whereas the Trial of the Sword, you start from scratch, which I don't know what it says about Breath of the Wild as a whole, but, like, they're the best parts of the game. Like, Eventide Island, again, is another example of, like,
and all Tears of the Kingdoms,
the basics,
back to the basic shrines. They had like a decent amount of
them,
and every amazing. Time I would get excited. I'm like, do I have enough hearts? All right, let's do it, because that's the only thing you can bring in, your hearts, nothing else.
The proving, like, they were amazing. But kind of what I mean, especially say if they dropped Age of Imprisonment DLC now, is like, from like a story and a world building perspective, I feel Breath of the Wild's DLC feels a little bit detached, I suppose, from like the main story, where it's like the main story, I think, was very tightly written, like, kind of everything that you do in the game is relevant to the story, and then it's like, not that the DLC wasn't, but it just felt slightly less finely tuned to the rest of the world itself. I don't know, like
no, 100%.
I don't really know how to articulate myself here properly, but it feels slightly less well integrated, I suppose, like the story and the world as the original game, which I suppose maybe it sounds silly to say that because it's like, well, obviously, the world was developed alongside the story. Obviously, they're going to mesh better than the DLC, which was developed afterwards and kind of tacked on. But I think that the same would be true for Age of Imprisonment. It's like, it would be cool if we got a Twin Rover DLC, but a big part of me would just be like, why didn't you put that in the actual game? Why is that not part of the main story, Whereas now it'd be like, Twin Rovers appeared. How does that fit into the imprisoning war story that the game has just told us,
Yeah, the ship has sailed, and I guess I agree. Like, it would seem a bit like I would take it and I'll play it, but if that's gonna delay the next announcement for the next Zelda game or anything, then I wouldn't want it either. I'm ready to move on because 100%. It's time. Again, I said it many times. 1/4 of the entirety of the Zelda series has been spent on the Wild Era. Let's leave. Right? Yeah, that's too much.
Which is crazy. Like,
way too long. I'm ready to see what's next. I can't wait. And again, and this is a good segue as well to so obviously next month is the 40th anniversary, and maybe Nintendo will acknowledge it. And the big rumor is Ocarina of Time remake. So we talked briefly about like the Final Fantasy trilogy of 7 and how it's like remaking, and essentially someone said in the comments it's essentially a sequel, which I don't even understand what that means. Okay. But I guess I don't know. Cloud is reliving. I haven't played either, so I don't know. Well, I'm personally like, as someone who played the original, playing the new one, I'm getting a little confused because I feel like they're baiting me and I feel like they're not following. It's not meant to be the exact story. It's supposed to be an alternate reality. But my point is, I like the idea of like, it's what you know, but also, is it what you know? And to me, I want them to apply that with Ocarina of Time. So what I was thinking about is Ocarina of Time is the foundation of the timeline, right? It starts the timeline split, right? When we play Ocarina of Time, we can gauge the two timeline. We can assume the two timeline split that we get from Zelda sending Link back into the past. Obviously, that creates two timelines. But what if they give us a proper Ocarina of Time remake and really explore all three endings and give us where Link fails? Like, think about it. This is how you actually do an Ocarina of Time remake. You explain the three timeline split. You hone in on that idea. And maybe what could happen is, again, when the Master gets knocked out, where the timeline ends, if you don't get it in time, like you're timed, you get the bad ending. Yeah. Something like that, right? Yeah. And then if, and then the other two explain itself. But, like, how dope would that be?
Like, I mean, as a real staunch timeline defender, I'd feel so validated if they went back and did that. Because obviously, Ocarina of Time is like the anchor of the Zelda timeline. It explains the split. Like you said, adult and child timeline splits, they make complete sense. Like from how the game itself is structured, you get the adult timeline.
Link left in a different timeline.
Where Ganon...
But where's Zelda?
Link is sent back, timeline. And then he goes and he meets Zelda as a child, and the game ends with him talking to a young Zelda, which is very, very heavily implying that he's going to warn her or somehow go back and change the events of history. And then, obviously, that leads into Majora's Mask. That was all very, very explicit. Then, even though, like I said, I'm a timeline defender, I think the Downfall timeline, the beginning of that is so messy.
Oh, it's half-assed. They really just fit them in here. We don't know where to put the other games, put them there. Well, that's my theory.
It's kind of a problem of like, whereas you had A Link to the Past, and then they developed Ocarina of Time, deliberately trying to make that a prequel to
the true origin.
The idea was Ocarina of Time would explain the imprisoning war that A Link to the Past then follows. But then, I don't know, I assume just during development of Ocarina of Time, the story just took a different approach, and then it doesn't really fit. Ocarina of Time, as it stands, doesn't fit with the imprisoning war as told in A Link to the Past. It doesn't make sense. So then, they're left with the problem of how do you make those games fit on a timeline? Oh, let's just say Link failed, I don't know, and then which, technically, like, if you think about it, that makes sense.
That's an outcome.
It doesn't feel right.
That's a probability, right? Like, we can accept it, but like not giving us proof or not giving us a way to experience it, I think is kind of disservice to fans. And
exactly.
that's why, no one really wants to acknowledge it or accept the fact that, oh, they had it planned all along. Then you would have had Ocarina of Time when you're escaping the castle, you get a game over if you don't make it out or something. Like, they should have then literally had an alternate game over ending or something. Like, that's where you fail, right? But
like in the Minish Cap, where you don't reach Vati in time and he extracts Zelda's life force and
exactly. Yeah, that would have been really, even if it results in a game over and you have to do it again to get the true ending. That would have left the opening of, okay, so that's the what if. That's when I failed. They showed me a little cutscene of what happens if you did fail, and it opens up another timeline. So for me, it's like, you want to give us Ocarina of Time remake? That's how you. Then now we need one, right? Now, if we had, that would explain why we need one. So, I agree.
I think that's amazing. Whereas, like, because it's so obvious to anyone who's if you play Wind Waker and you play Majora's Mask, it just makes sense how they both follow from Ocarina of Time, but they can't be following from the same Ocarina of Time because their histories don't line up. It must be two different timelines stemming from the same event. But then, if you play A Link to the Past, it doesn't really make sense in the same way because, like you said, we don't see it in Ocarina of Time. So that would be a way, I suppose, to kind of make the same game again, but with a little bit extra. Because I know you've said, again, I haven't played it, but with Final Fantasy VII, what's it, Rebirth, Remake,
Remake and Rebirth so far. They haven't announced the third one yet.
Okay. Okay. But like, there's like Cloud sees like flashes of events that haven't happened or something like that, or
like of that could happen or that have happened in the original game, or just like literally, because in the original game he also has like premonitions, but I don't know, the way they're making it seem in this game or in these games is they're trying to not let you think everything. Like, people are, well, even up until 2 or the second one that's coming out, I guess I don't want to spoil anything, but like a main character dies, people weren't even certain if that could happen or will happen or what's going to happen because things are just not exactly the same. So it would be cool if Nintendo did do that with Ocarina of Time as well, where not the ending, the ending should remain as the 3 that we know, but like not everything is as obvious. Maybe they have like different story beats, different things going on. I mean, they can, let's be honest, Ocarina of Time, they can thoroughly explore it without milking it into a trilogy. They can make it just so much more interesting by adding way more story and way more just side quests and stuff. Like, Ocarina of Time can be padded out to like a much more expansive game that requires 50 to 100 hours and not feel just like, you know, repetitive in a way. Because is like, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So
you can get way more out of like the skeleton structure of Ocarina of Time's story, whereas like Final Fantasy VII, like, I might be wrong saying this, but I'm pretty sure it came on so many discs because it just had like full movies basically of the cutscenes. You know, there's like hours and hours and hours of cutscenes, whereas Ocarina of Time, not only are they're not pre-rendered, they're like there's much less actual kind of story content. A lot of the story is just you're experiencing it. You kind of, you know, you're picking up on the story of Hyrule by playing through it rather than sitting down and watching a thing. So I think even if you kept all the story beats the exact same, you know, Link starts in Kakiri Forest and then the Great Deku Tree dies, sends him to meet Zelda, Spiritual Stones, all that, you could keep the exact structure but pad it out more, and I think it would work fine. 100%. I think it would work really well.
Sheik as well. I would love to see, instead of she just being a background character, her whole, like, why did Zelda turn into Sheik? That would be really, really fun to see and explore. Because like that's Zelda at her most badass, like, easily. I don't think Zelda.
It's off screen, right?
Right, it's all off screen essentially. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Like, and again, I understand for like anyone listening to this, we've done it again, and we've kind of talked this thing into existence that may not exist. I just want to say that, because again, it's like, it's still like, even since we recorded last week, there's more and more people talking about this game
with no actual proof of anything. Right? It's just more.
Yeah. So again, this is all hypotheticals. This is right. But yeah, like, Sheik, seeing her story padded out a bit more would be amazing. Like, I know back when Tears of the Kingdom was on the horizon, a load of people were hoping for a playable Zelda. Especially a playable Zelda in much the same way as, you know, in The Witcher 3, you get to play as Ciri for those little kind of side missions or something. I've always been maybe a bit outspoken in that I don't really want that because for me, you know, I love Echoes of Wisdom. I love the idea of playing as Zelda, but for me, a big part of Zelda is becoming the protagonist and getting immersed in the world and that particular protagonist.
It's not like a linear story where you're jumping from character to character or completely different perspectives. You're Link, you are his perspective throughout the entire thing. That's why even Tears of the Kingdom because me and you thought Zelda might be playable, but it still felt weird. Like, how does Nintendo take you away from Link? How would they transition that smoothly?
Because a big part of it is your Link, you like go and get lost in this world and whatever. And so, whereas I think it would take away from that if you're switching perspectives.
Oh, I got an idea. This is a Nintendo. No, I'm kidding. But this is my idea. What if when you pull out the Master Sword, like so they?
I was about to say I had this queued up. Yeah, no way. Yeah,
literally. You have to shift perspectives because there's gonna be 7 timelines. You live a little bit of that 7 timeline. It really makes it feel like, you know, things happen. It's all kind of like, you know, hazy memory or anything. They can do anything with it. And then you go back, right? Yeah, that's what you're thinking. Right?
No, I was gonna say, I no lie, I was like, oh, I had like an epiphany, but like because the main reason I wouldn't want that to happen in a game like Tears of the Kingdom is because you're immersed, you're always Link on his journey, but Ocarina of Time is a game that is broken into 2 halves. You have a massive shift halfway through, and I think if anything, if you had a little playable section as Sheik or something in the middle, it would only make that split more effective because you'd have kind of gone away from Link's perspective.
Yep, especially the one guarding the Master Sword. You get introduced to this character a little bit, and then have him block the sword. You can't even go back. Now you're stuck as adult Link for a little bit. Bro, this writes itself. Nintendo, please, but it's not happening.
That's it. Yeah. Oh. That makes sense to me.
Yo, and if the Ocarina of Time remake came out, maybe that's the first game my kid's playing. Then there you go. Now best of both worlds.
True. Yeah. Oh. I mean, who knows? We're like a month and a week ish as of time we're recording until
severely disappointed.
The actual 40th birthday. And I don't know. Yeah, they announced like another Game & Watch or something like that, or like I don't know. I'd take anything. You know, I know we covered it last podcast, but like I don't know. Cast reveal for the Zelda movie or something like that. That obviously Pie in the Sky Dream is a full game, but I'm just
the acknowledgement would be
to not getting anything.
Exactly. The acknowledgement would be so much already because they don't even do that anymore. Again, time will tell. Again, literally a month and not even 10 days, a month and a week and a half.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll obviously be covering whatever we see in the 40th anniversary, you know, be it a huge blowout reveal of, you know, validate all these people talking about Ocarina of Time remake because it's real, we'll cover it. If it's cast reveal, we'll cover it. If it's nothing, I don't know, we'll still talk about how we didn't get anything. Because I know we said a little bit at the start of the podcast, but we're not going to be leaving it for like 6 months again. That was kind of, I know we're neither of us is the most organized person, and then if you throw kind of children into the mix, it kind of really made things a little bit difficult to get on this for a while, but you know, now
we're finding our groove.
Things are a little bit more settled. We're finding our groove again.
And I guess while on the topic of this, because some people have mentioned obviously the joke, it's funny when Ed literally I'm assuming you don't mind me sharing this, but when you first figured out you had you were expecting a kid, you sent me like a meme of like Drake, you know, like not Zeldudes, Zeldads, like, you know, because, you know, we're both becoming dads, which, it's crazy the timing and everything. But obviously, immediately then, I suggested we got to rebrand to Zeldads. That just makes sense, you know. Right. We're on this journey together. But sadly, the reason, because trust me, a lot of people we've noticed, a lot of people in the comments were like, we rebrand to Zeldads. We want, you guys are Zeldads from now on. It's just taken, sadly. We can't do it.
Yeah.
Like, we want to.
You can't get the handle. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
but we would. I don't know.
Yeah, spiritually, we're Zeldads, but we're dudes. We're both, you know.
That's it, we don't stop being dudes, now we're dads, but like...
I feel like there's literally a channel called Dads Being Dudes that are like also 2 people who play like Pokemon.
Okay, right, yeah.
Instead.
Nice.
But we'll stick to Zelda. That's what we do. We're dads play Zeldads, essentially. Perfect name.
Speaking of Zeldads playing Zelda, we're very aware that we've left Ocarina of Time, like
Yeah.
almost there. So yeah, we are finishing that. We're not letting the Let's Plays die.
The 40th anniversary, will make sure it's up just in case there's a remake and we never touch the original again. So yeah, don't worry.
So
we may have gotten 2 podcasts,
happening,
back to back, but we'll make sure. I'm sure someone out there, that's all they're waiting for. So we're gonna get to it.
That's coming. Yeah. But I don't know. Was there anything else you wanted to cover this time?
I guess that about covers everything. You know, again, since we'll be a lot more frequent, if there is any update, do expect us to immediately jump on it and geek out. But in the meanwhile, when there isn't any Zelda news in terms of podcasts, we're also thinking of, throughout the Let's Plays we have done, we can do like a podcast just talking about the one game. Like, since we've done Skyward Sword, Minish Cap, and Four Swords, we have 3 different podcast episodes we could just cover each game and really kind of go into our final thoughts. Because, of course, you can hear everything we want to say in the Let's Plays, but, you know, rounding everything up is always fun. And as you can see, we've been talking about Tears of the Kingdom on and off for literally every episode, so I'm sure talking about a different Zelda game would be a bit better, maybe just kind of freshen things up.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's one thing we're definitely going to try and do more now is, like, I think, because I've never done a Let's Play before. Obviously, Luke is like Mr. Let's Play, so you're kind of like, teaching me the ropes a little bit, and I've really enjoyed doing it. Yep. Completely new kind of style of content, never really done that before. But I think we did kind of we lost the podcast a little bit in just doing LPs, True. Which, you know, because we got kind of fixated on them, which is fantastic. But I don't think we're going to do that this time. You know, we're going to try and stay consistent with this, with doing just kind of a really free flow conversation about Zelda. If there's any Zelda news, we'll fold that into it. If not, if there's one thing that Luke and I can do, it's just kind of talk about Zelda like endlessly. So I don't know, if you're down content for it, that's kind of what will be.
It will be that.
Whatever,
right, whatever gameplay, not podcast. It's gonna be, that's the gist of the channel.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if you're down for that, that's what this will be. It'll just be, you know, 2 dudes, dads, whatever, talking about Zelda. But I guess, I don't know, if there's nothing else to cover, then we'll leave it for this week, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.